Hi, good afternoon and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Carmen McGuinness, and on this channel we discuss relationships of all sorts, topics surrounding relationships, including the relationship that we have with ourselves, which I call the primary relationship, because of course from it comes all other relationships. So today we're going to talk about why those who have been involved in a relationship with a narcissist are more prone to lie to themselves, what mechanisms drive this, and what deeper core beliefs might underlie those mechanisms, and what we can do to break free from this pattern. So here we go. Anyone might fall into a pattern of lying to him or herself. This is not unique to those who've been involved with narcissists. It does happen. But there are a few things, life conditions, that can bring it on, that are more likely to bring it on. And being involved with a narcissist is one of those conditions. And today we're going to address that one. So living with a narcissist changes you. It simply does. I doubt that anyone who's been in a relationship with a narcissist would argue that point. But knowledge is power. And so the purpose of this particular segment is to help you understand one such change and the mechanisms and deeper core beliefs behind the change, so that you can overcome this, so that you can control it. There are two mechanisms in the narcissistic relationship that drive the development of self-deception. The first is gaslighting, or when the narcissist tells you that what you saw, what you heard, or the way you feel is somehow wrong, that you're mistaken, that it didn't happen that way, and that he or she tells you how it did happen. They replace your reality with their version of it. And when we continuously accept those lies and half-truths, we set ourselves up to lie to ourselves. So that's one of the mechanisms that can drive this sort of self-deception. The second, and this is really a phenomenon called the fantasy bond, and was first proposed by Dr. Robert Firestone. The fantasy bond is when we imagine a perfect relationship that maybe isn't really so perfect after all. The fantasy bond is perhaps the first lie that we tell ourselves. And in some cases, the fantasy bond can begin with the infant's relationship with their caregiver, where the caregiver is perhaps distracted or neglectful in some other way, and the infant imagines that all the right things are happening that happened at one point, but that are no longer happening. Humans have a tremendous capacity for imagination. The fantasy bond will then repeat itself in the adult romantic relationship. However, that said, the fantasy bond can actually first occur in the adult relationship if conditions are right. So Napoleon Bonaparte said, "History is a set of lies agreed upon." And indeed, this is true of family and relationship history as well. When you buy into the lies you were told, either as a child or in an adult relationship, or often both, you buy into a fantasy world created by the one who spun them. But these lies are also supported by those caught up in them, and you don't want to be one of those people. Those who agree with them and defend them, perhaps to great extents, to the detriment of their own self-well-being. And to some degree, that's a lie that we tell ourselves when we do that. As the fantasy author Patrick Rothfuss said, "The best lies about me are the ones I told." Well, sure. And what's the goal? What do we get out of these lies that we believe? The lies we support, the lies we tell ourselves. Why do we do it? Sure, of course, there's the training that we were given when we were children, that, fantasy bond training and the gaslighting. If it started then, or in the relationship, if it started later on as an adult, there's the weakness to live in a bright light of lies rather than the dark truth. But what's underneath that? Is there a deeper core belief? Perhaps the words of Rudyard Kipling provide a clue. Of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. Well, what are we fearing here? Fear is a core belief that leads us to lie so that we can escape the fear, so that we can escape the ugly truth. Fear that we're not worthy, fear that we can't manage the truth, fear that we're stuck here. So lying, seeing the silver lining, even if it's a fantasy, is better than that truth that we fear. Overcoming fear and learning to accept, forgive, and love ourselves is a first step in escaping our own lies. Another way to lie to ourselves is to refuse to believe the truth. So it's not just inventing a lie, which is more of an assertive action, but it's also an evasive action where we just refuse to accept the truth. As the Danish philosopher Kierkegaard said, there are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true, such as, I love you, I'll change, I've stopped drinking, I'm looking for a job, I gave up smoking, I never saw that girl before in my life, I paid the taxes, etc., etc., etc. These are all examples from clients and my own life. The other, Kierkegaard said, is to refuse to believe what is true, what the obvious reality is. Again, it's the call to the Kool-Aid. It's the call to that sugary sweet drink, that lie that's so much more palatable than the thirsty truth. As Dostoevsky said, lying to ourselves is more deeply ingrained than lying to others. And it turns out it's true. Those who lie to others, the narcissists and sociopaths, know that they're lying. But those who lie to themselves often don't. So you have to sort of excavate through that false reality that they have before you can get to them trying to figure out what's going on. But the good news is they're much more receptive to therapeutic intervention and self-help when they realize what they're caught up in, when they realize that they are lying to themselves. So where does the path begin? How do we move away from that sugary sweet Kool-Aid, that lie, and face the painful thirst? I've asked myself this question many times. What drives one client, one individual, to stay in the lie and another to move beyond it? Often at great expense. The data on therapeutic intervention tell us it's self-reliance, resilience, faith in self, or is it just determination to refuse anything that isn't true? To just step into the light and say, this is where I am now, and whatever shadows fall, to embrace that truth with the knowledge that it is true, and that it's true alone, and that it is all that is real. A desire to just live in the light, no matter what the shadow cast might show, might reveal. And often this requires other steps as well, difficult steps like forgiveness, and the more difficult step still, self-forgiveness. And I'm going to put up some links throughout this video and more here. And I really hope that this has been helpful. I know this is a difficult topic. When we shine the light on us rather than the other person, it can be troubling. The fears do come up, but they are surmountable. And once we have made that journey, that path across the mountains, once we get to the other side, it's freedom. It's all good after that. It's actually really all good once you realize you're on the path, because you know that you're not going to accept what was back there anymore. You're only going to accept what's ahead, no matter what that means. So I sincerely hope this has been helpful for you today. I will see you midweek with my midweek sneak peek as to next week's topic. As always, I invite you to reach out if you need more help than what you're finding on the internet and books and other sources. Self-help, I'm a firm believer in self-help. That's where my journey began. And the journey of many people began there, and with some, it begins and ends there. So if you find that you need more help than that, please reach out to someone, whether it's myself or someone else. I provide therapy in my Central Florida-based clinic, and also through an internet, HIPAA-secure internet platform. So have a wonderful week. Take care. Love yourselves. See you soon.